Hey everyone, it's Deja with Knit and Crochet Ever After, and today we are making the Crochet Meadow Cowl. So this was one of my paid patterns before, and now I'm releasing it as a free pattern. Trying to keep things fresh and, retiring some old patterns and making them free. The pattern is in the description below. Just click on that link. So we used, I'm not a double. I used 120 yards in the dark green and 100 yards in the light green, which this is Malabrigo, and you'll see that in the pattern what the colors are if you really love this color combo. But it's worsted weight yarn, so you can use any worsted weight yarn. I recommend wool if you don't have an allergy for cowls because they're just warm. It gives it structure, it helps it to stand up so that it's covering your nose and your mouth during the winter, which I love. I used a 5.5 USI hook, which also gives it some more structure when you have worsted weight. I've talked about that before. If you want more structure, go with a smaller hook. If you want more drapey, go with a larger hook. I wouldn't go too much smaller if you want to make gauge, but you could definitely go bigger and the cowl will just be a little bit bigger, which, it's all about getting it over your head. So bigger is okay, smaller, it stretches pretty well. It's got some good stretch, so you'll be able to get it over your head, I think, if you go a little smaller. The measurements are in the pattern for you, but let's go get started. So to begin the pattern, we're doing just some single crochet border. Really simple. We'll go over that really quickly, and then it goes right into these pattern repeats, which are 2 rows each that give it that offset. It is worked flat and then it's seamed, which it's not super visible. It's a little visible, but I think it's a lot easier working it flat and then seaming it at the end rather than trying to adjust the pattern to work in the round. So that's why I chose to do this flat, and I want to make it as easy as possible for beginners. So we'll go do the border and start on our stitches, and then we'll come back at the end to talk about finishing. Okay, so we're going to start off with chaining the required amount it states in the pattern, and then we're going to do 2 rows of single crochet. So we're going to skip that first chain, and because there's no border on this, instead of working into the back loop, I'm going to work into the bottom bump. So when you turn it over, you'll see one bottom bump, and then the second one, you'll work right into that. And once you do the first one, it turns on its side and you can see those bottom bumps a lot easier. And we're just doing, and this is actually kind of like our border, we're going to do 2 rows of single crochet to create a border before we start the stitch pattern. So working into that bottom bump gives us a nice V edge on the bottom rather than kind of a wonky edge from working into that back loop. So go ahead and do your 2 rows of single crochet, and then we'll come back. Okay, we've got our 2 rows of single crochet border done, and now we're ready for our stitch repeat. So we're going to chain 2 at the beginning of these rounds, not rounds, we're working flat. We're going to join it in the round at the end, but we're going to chain 2 at the beginning just to get height of a half double crochet. It's not going to count as a half double crochet, so we will work into this first stitch, and we're going to do 5 half double crochets in the next 5 stitches. So that's 1 yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3. A trick to get through those easily is to point your hook down and it'll slide easily through all of those stitches. Once those 5 are done, next we're going to do 5 slip stitches. So when we're doing slip stitches, we want to do them kind of loose. If I pull these tight and I just start yanking on all of these and making them tiny, it's going to start pulling my project over. So I want to give enough room where this loop is going to kind of lay the same size as the stitch below. So I'm going to pull out my stitch a little bit, pull up the loop, and pull through. So you can see I've got a lot of room on there, so that way I'm not making my project scrunch up. So 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then that's all we're doing across. So we're going to do another 5 half doubles and 5 slip stitches, and that's what your stitch repeat's going to be. So you'll do that for the full amount that you actually chained. I only did 20 here so that we can get through this quicker. But at the end of this row, we're going to switch over to our new color. So it's up to you which color you want to be the border color and which color, you know, to be the alternate color. So it's not, you know, it's not important. Let me show you mine real quick. I chose the dark colors to be the border just because I like having that kind of to frame in the lighter green. So totally up to you what you prefer. I'm kind of going with the darker, it's not really a dark blue, but it's darker than this cream that I'm about to put in. So during the last stitch of the row, we're going to switch to our new color. So I'm going to insert my hook, I'm going to drop off my blue, find the end here, give enough to weave in, and then pull that through to finish off that last slip stitch. Okay, so we're not going to fasten off the blue because we're going to run it up the side so that we don't have a million ends to weave in at the end. So we're going to begin our next row with our cream or white or whatever color this is, and we're going to do pretty much the same as what we just did with just a slight change. So we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do the 5 half double crochets, but this time we're going to work into the back loop only. So when you work these slip stitches, they look kind of strange. Your back loop you can't even see unless you turn your work, so it's this back loop facing away from you. The easiest way to kind of get in there is kind of go in the middle of the stitch and push down, and that'll get you through that back loop a lot easier. So we're going to do 5, and this is pulling out because we haven't woven in yet. Don't worry about that. You'll weave that in and tighten it down later. So we're going to do 5 in the back loop, with a BLO as it says in the pattern, back loop only, and then 5 slip stitches again. So now you can read your stitches, you can see what was before so that you can do the opposite. So you're going to go under both loops for that slip stitch. Remember to make them kind of loose so that you are not scrunching up your work. Then again, working in that back loop only, another 5. Pretty easy pattern to memorize quickly as long as you're paying attention to what color you're on. And then the slip stitches again. Oops. Don't slip it all the way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that chain 2 from the beginning, we just ignore it. Okay, for this next row we're going to be doing something different. So we're going to chain 1 instead of 2, and this time we're going to do everything in the back loop, but we're going to copy what we did the row before. So we're going to do a slip stitch in these first 5 stitches, and then we're going to HDC, half double crochet in the back loop. Use your fingernails if you're getting a little trouble getting into those slip stitches. Grow off fingernail if you don't have any. It makes it easier. Then we're going to do half double crochets in the back loop only on, oops, right above our other half double crochets. And we are going to do that across, and then we're going to change back to our blue at the end of this row. So we'll meet up at the end of the row for the change up so we can talk about the rest of the pattern. Okay, the last half double crochet, we're going to stop right there and join the blue back in. Remember that we haven't fastened it off. We're going to run it up the edge. And we're going to do it not too tight, because if you pull too tight, you're going to crunch up your project. So you're going to pull it up, pull it through, lose everything again, and then kind of give it a tug just to give it some space. It doesn't have to be completely straight. You can give it a little room, because when you sew this together, you're not going to see those anyways. You're going to put those on the wrong side with this ugliness on this back side. This is the wrong side of the work, so you can see there's a little color change up there. The front side looks very different. You have this cool kind of effect happening. So now with the blue, we're going to be alternating what we just did, because we want to now, we don't want to build more half double crochets here. Now we want to do the slip stitches so that it's flat again, and then raising it back up here with the half double crochets. So we're going to chain one, do everything's back loop only now, so it's just here until we get to our border. Then that'll be regular single crochet, but for this portion we're doing back loop only, and it's basically just reversing what we did with the white. I feel like I'm missing one. There we go. I'm watching it through the camera, so sometimes it's a little bit difficult to crochet and see what I'm doing at the same time. So we are just gonna do that same stuff when we come back. We're gonna do the HDCs over the HDCs and the slip stitches over the slip stitches, so that we can create this kind of bubble effect that we've got going on here. So we'll follow the pattern for those next two rows and then talk about our border. Okay, so I did another 2 rows of the blue. So basically that's what you're going to do. You're going to switch back to white, then you'll be starting with half double crochets, back to the blue. Once you get to the height that you want, or if you're following the pattern, you'll finish with a row 6 repeat, which is the first half of whatever color you're making the border in. So just one of the row, you're not going to come back and complete it, and then you're going to follow up with 2 rows of single crochet just like the bottom. So you can see there's only half of the blue here, whereas this is a double, there's 2 rows. So once that's complete, you will take your project and fold it in half with the right sides facing together, so you can see all of those different color changes. And you might like that side. That side's actually kind of cool when it's all said and done. But you can see my tails coming through here. Then you can just whip stitch or mattress stitch, whichever you prefer. I have tutorials for both of those to finish off the ends. And then you're good to go. You're ready to wear. And your seam is not super visible, you know, you can definitely tell there's a seam there. This is with whip stitching, so if you mattress stitch it might be a little less visible, but you know, it's a flat working cowl for ease, so you do end up with that seam when you join it, so that's kind of inevitable. Just try to mask it. It's fine, put it in the back. So that is that. Let's go do some final thoughts. Okay, so we've worked through all the stitches. You know what to do now. So once you make it and it's all good to go, you can either block it at the end before you seam it, or you could block it after. I like to block it flat, just if you're gonna block it. It doesn't really need blocking, but if you want to kind of stretch it out a little bit more, if you think it's kind of small or you didn't quite match gauge and it's a little tight and you think it's not going to be fitting over your head, go ahead and give it a block and it'll stretch it out some. But once you do that, then we're just going to whip stitch or mattress stitch, whichever you prefer. The whip stitch is kind of easy because of the edges that you're running. It'll kind of capture them. Either whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you prefer, you know, make it yours. Super simple. I would love to see your color combos and what you guys are making with this. So tag me on Instagram with your finished projects. I love to see what you guys do with these things. That is the Meadow Cowl. Follow me for more patterns. I am Deja with Knit and Crochet Ever After, and thank you for watching.